Okay, so we're back on. I'm about to turn around, as I'm sure you'll be able to work that out for yourself. And yet another gas station. If there was any pandemic going on, it's the number of gas stations. They seem to be springing up everywhere. Now here's a familiar sight, what we're behind now. That's what I call a commercial tricycle, because, well, this one wants to hog the road. He could let me pass by moving over. So, right, we're coming into Itafi proper now, and on the left you should be able to see that what's left of the tree house that I told you about. That tree house used to span all the way between two of those mighty trees. I have never found out really what those trees are called. Let me take this down. Sorry about that. I never really found out the name for them, but they are enormous. And there's what's left of the tree house, just a small thing now. And we come along. I spent a lot of money on that park. Unfortunately, some of it, I think, was damaged during the typhoon. I think some of the, see, there's two other trees here, look. Now they built a structure there that looks like the tree house, but actually it's using the staircase, and it's built a completely independent platform, whereas the other was actually on the tree, and it really was amazing. And it went over from that over to this one here, look, which is still pretty nice. I like a nice tree house myself. But there's another of those huge trees. These are all over in Bohol, from what I've seen. They look almost like the dinosaur of trees. There's the church. Now the church, well, I remember that their target at least was 5 million pesos to spend on having that refurbished, restored. That was before the typhoon. Here's very nice. You don't see too many of those Toyotas, but I think that belongs to the owner of the private school. And there's Ambacon, where we get pretty well most of our tools, or most of our materials. And now we're out of Taffy. I'm stumbling on my words today. I'm going to stick that back in, and you can have a look at the trip from Taffy, which is apparently 6 kilometers. Now, kilometers, you can talk to me about kilometers all day long. It won't mean a thing. And the Raptor was recording things. It records the speed, at least in kilometers per hour. But obviously there's an onboard computer which can change that into miles. And when we first got the Raptor, I suddenly noticed that the number of miles that we had travelled had suddenly gone down. Instead of being up around 20 or 30, it suddenly went down, I don't know, closer to half. So took it in and mentioned that, and they said that yes, it was just just the onboard computer, and it seems to have gone back to miles, not miles per hour, but miles driven. And I noticed it particularly got a bit of a shock. Well, of course, we're on a foreigner from the Philippines, and we get shocked at everything, don't we? Shocked and teary-eyed are our two standing descriptions. Sorry about that, if you don't like it. But anyway, to get to it, and it started to record, it seems, and show a readout of miles per hour. And one of the things that the onboard computer does in the Raptor is it shows various things that you can do. It will record up to 3 trips, give you all of the details on those 3 trips, what average miles per hour, I think, and certainly it will give you all of your gas details. So what was your average miles per gallon during that time, and obviously when Speedo is showing kilometers, so everything else should be showing that, and I think it probably does. But it's saying here now, the only thing that I bother about, I'm not a computer type, I'm not a nerdy type. I tend to just go on the bare minimum that I need to know, and of course it shows. But the fuel, it's reading out now saying fuel economy, distance to E. So distance to empty is being shown on the dash, and what have we got? We've got just over a quarter full, and it's showing 110 miles to empty. So the shock that I got was that I put 2,000 petrol of gas in, kind of nearly reverted to being British then and called it petrol. So we put 2,000 pesos worth of petrol in there, and suddenly it was only showing a much smaller mileage to empty. So maybe that's it, that it's gone on to miles driven instead of kilometers driven. Don't ask me what the conversion is, although I should know. So here we're looking at the road. Supposedly, as Beth would say, God, I'm picking up, instead of her picking up all my English, I'm picking up all of her ways of saying things, which is inevitable when you're in the Philippines, because there are certain phrases which you come into contact with every day, like wait for a moment is one. Let me see, out of stock is another one. I think they're the two main ones, out of stock and wait for a moment. So you're looking at the road going back, it's supposed to be 6 kilometers. Now I've ridden this road on my bicycle. It's a hard road, it's a hard ride. I've ridden from Talabong with my friend Ricky, who owns the what I think of as the best bike shop out of, I think, 2 or 3 in Talabong. He owns, and his wife own, I think, the best one. So I've ridden from Talabong to Trinidad, and it didn't seem so hard to me. That's about 40 kilometers round trip, and I don't know how it's around the same number of kilometers round trip to go from Talabong to Etafe. But Etafe, the trip to Etafe is all up and down, lots of hills going. So yes, you get the pleasure of riding easily downhill, but the ride uphill is a killer, especially the last one just before you get back to Talabot. So if we see many tricycle taxis, you will begin to get an idea of what I usually talk about driving in the Philippines, or at least in the province, which is where we are. As we get behind any one of these tricycles, you see that our speed goes from, you know, probably 60 or 70k to maybe 20. So it certainly affects driving. Not so bad for the motorcyclists, and they are fast. We're doing 60. That biker there has left us. Probably, judging by how far he's disappearing, he's probably doing an extra 10, so he's doing maybe somewhere between 60 and 80k. But they always pass me at a good speed. What I judge is 90 to 100k. But the tricycle driver is a different thing, and they're everywhere, and that's a great thing. We used to have, right now you see this house on the right. The house on the right was built by the family that owned, or used to own, what was a sari store here. We used to have a tricycle bring all of our materials to that little road that is where that nice house with the blue roof is, and from there my brother-in-law Rado used to come down. We'd send him a message, and in his own good time, in other words Carabao time, he would come. See, now here's one of the hazards on the road in the Philippines, in the province, and that's dogs, which you'll see them just about everywhere. So he would come down and pick up the materials on his Carabao bamboo sled drawn by the Carabao. We would see him coming from up the hill, and he would be driving that Carabao. He would sit astride the Carabao, and he would enjoy the trip, and so he should. So we're coming up very soon to our turn off. Up there on the left you can see a very nice, see there's a tricycle driver. I don't know why, but for reasons best known to them. Now in that case, that tricycle driver was waiting to do a U-turn and head back the other way. Now that is a thing that is a criticism of many foreigners. They don't understand why anybody who wants to turn left or do a U-turn should pull over to the right of the road. Personally, I think that makes sense, because the training is not so extensive here for road sense, road manners, road etiquette, however you like to put that, and it actually doesn't make sense to do what we are trained to do in the West, and that is when you're turning, when you want to go left, then you look in your mirror, you see if it's safe to do so, then you indicate, and then you take the center, the crown of the road, and you wait until the oncoming traffic will allow you to turn left into the road that you want to enter. Here, the idea is a positively frightening one, that when I was riding a motorcycle, that was our transport, and the idea that we would pull into the center of what is actually a narrow, or was then a narrow, two-lane road that was servicing 10-wheelers and buses and fast-moving public transport, but vans, and wait till it was safe to turn left. So sitting there in the middle of the road, it didn't make a lot of sense to me. You would probably get flattened. You would be road pizza in no time. So when I was wanting to turn left across the road, the lane of the oncoming traffic, I would pull over to the right, and I would sit safely opposite the road that I wanted to turn into, on my side of the road, and I would wait until both oncoming sources of traffic were gone, and then I would simply turn and cross the road and into the road that I was seeking to turn left into, and that made the most sense, and that's what everybody does. Nobody feels that safe sitting out there on the center line, waiting for traffic to allow. I think quickest way to get rear-ended and flattened. Well, we're now into my rocky road. With the dinosaur fallen trees. Very sad. I wonder how long it will take for this kind of thing to be moved. Beth has a very matter-of-fact way of looking at this. She said, if people are using... I pulled back so that you can have a look at that. She says quite simply, if people are using it to cook, because just a reminder, we don't have power, so you have that there, and the same on the other side that we've just passed. There's a huge trees. Look, I find that sad. So look at that tortured tree there, and this one here, to an extent, some of it, the bit that has been snapped off there, has died. Oh no, wait, I'm looking at a little tiny leaf or two, so maybe that will survive as part of the live tree. But they look a little bit dead, don't they? Look like sections of them are dead. You don't know what's snapped up there and what isn't. That's why. See, that's a bit of a mess up there. I've seen these huge trees just snapped off completely and fallen. So, yeah, there's one there. That's this used to be, this particular part here used to be very bad for holding water, so deep mud. This is where we've actually towed people out, and that was the way that we used to go to escape getting trapped here. I used to actually drive the other way, which I just mentioned, and that was the Let me put this back. And that was the where we used to get our materials taken up, and they closed that road. They cut it in half because they claimed, whoever lived on the right hand side of that claimed that that was their land, and they were not agreeable to that width of a road being taken for the public. So we all suddenly woke up one day to a fence running down the center of the road in the Philippines. But I used to ride that on my motorcycle, and I would, and I'm stopping here because here you can get, and I'll pull off slightly, which is obviously not where I'm going, and position the camera so you can see the coastline over there. Oh, this doesn't come off very easily. Let me go back again. So that gives you, that's Cebu, the dark, more mountainous background to those thin strips which are islands, and obviously the ocean water. Now, after the typhoon, that coastline at night was lit up, where before the typhoon it was not. And the reason for that was so many big boats had been actually beached along that stream. When I spoke actually on one of our island trips when we were doing a feeding, and I spoke to a coast guard who was at the port when we were coming in and returning. He said that about somewhere between 70 and 90, I think it was, 90 boats had been beached. Some of them are beached right up into the mangroves. So unfortunately, even though the mangroves are protected, they will have to cut quite a few of the mangroves down to get those boats out, because they're not just punt boats. These are big boats. This is the kind of thing we see all the time, and under normal circumstances I'd be out there and cut that back and throw it out of the way. But even after 8 years, I still look at this and think that it's beautiful and that we're lucky. So this is a tricky part of the road when it really is wet. If it's actually raining while we're coming home, yeah, tricky. And here you can see my readout that I see. If I put onto menu, see, and then this particular one is, let's put that again. Look, that says terrain modes. This one is normal. Let's put it back again. Terrain modes, and let me see. No, now we're on to the fuel economy, average fuel history, average speed. See, that's been my average speed, going up the the dirt track, because not about to beat the life out of the Raptor. Distance to empty, that's the one that I look at the most, really. Not really interested in all of the other. Instant fuel economy, that's how much it's, if you look at that, into 0.3 gallons per hour. What we're looking at there is the reading for right now. What good is it to me? I don't feel it's any good. So there's the controls for that. Look, if you go there, look. And then under that, I think we're looking there at cruise control. And there's all kinds of stuff that would delight a techie type of person. I've actually never used those. I've never used them. And then on top, another one gives you the menu. Oops, that gives you the horn. See there? That's the one. No, I haven't got that right. And then you've got these paddles, plus and minus, and therefore when you want to go and do the boy racer and change the gears yourself, oh joy. Here, the comb doesn't come with the truck. And this, you can see, you can go into drive, obviously, which does everything for you, or you can go into manual, which is why you have those paddles there, depending on whether you're left-handed or right-handed. But anyway, we've gone back on to talking about technical things, haven't we? There's a coconut tree. Always look at that. I think that looks like the leg of a fallen elephant to me. Okay, well, you can feel me bumping about and everything now, so I'm gonna quit and talk to you another time.